Welcome back, folks, to the WP-Tonic Show. This is episode 405. That's right, 405, folks. I've managed to last this long. I'm really looking forward to this interview. We've got a returning guest. It's Justin from LearnDash. And I've got my co-host, Cindy Nicholson, with me. Cindy, would you like to introduce yourself to the viewers?
Sure. Just hi, everyone. Cindy Nicholson here from thecoursewhisperer.com, where I help people who are wanting to create online courses.
Certainly do. What's the temperature like? Is it warming up in the...
It is. It's actually a pleasant day today for a change, but we're supposed to have rain on the weekend. So, but we don't have any snow. I was asked that yesterday if we had any snow here. So definitely not this time of year.
Right. And I've got Justin. Justin, would you like to quickly introduce yourself to the listeners and viewers?
Yeah, well, excuse me. Thanks so much for having me here. I'm Justin Ferriman. I'm co-founder of LearnDash, which is LMS plugin for WordPress for creating and selling online courses.
All right. And before we go into the main part of the interview, folks, we'll be covering everything LearnDash 3.0, a fantastic update. I've been playing with it myself and I'm really impressed. We'll be discussing some of the new features and the struggle that Justin has gone through to get this amazing product to you. But before that, I just want to quickly talk about one of my great sponsors, and that's Kinsta Hosting. And Kinsta only specialise in WordPress hosting. And if you're looking for a great hosting provider for your LearnDash project, they're fantastic. They've got all the latest technology, latest version of PHP, staging site, one-click update. We host a lot of our client sites on Kinsta. Can't recommend them more. And the main thing, they use Google Cloud as their backbone, but you get fantastic 24/7 support from people that really care. And it's just a fantastic setup and really great value. So go and have a look at kinsta.com. So, Justin, LearnDash 3.0, a mega project that you've been going through for a number of months. What are some of the key features that you're the most proud of this new level of learning management system?
Yeah, it has been a great project, a long one. I remember I first teased it February 2018, and we released at the end of May. So it was a long journey, but we got there. And in terms of features, I mean, the things that I like the most are probably the least exciting for a user, but what our users are really loving are our new focus mode, which is just a new environment when you're taking a course to help to help with course completion rates and to help a learner continue through the course content. And also, we updated all our visuals. So all our templates, our profile, we made it super simple to create a login and a registration for the LMS, which can be a challenge, especially on WordPress, because so many plugins leverage the native WordPress functionality as they should. But sometimes that can be confusing and hard to customize. And so we made a really beautiful login and registration process for online courses as well. So there's a lot into that that goes into this project. There's a lot behind the scenes. The new builders, Course Builder and Quiz Builder that we have are in a league of their own. And so we're really proud of those as well. So it's a very comprehensive update. We really just addressed everything from front to back over the past few years of feedback we've been getting. And the response so far has been overwhelmingly positive.
Yeah, I think you've done a great job, actually. I've been very impressed. Over to you, Cindy.
Thank you.
Yeah, so thanks, Justin, for joining us today. I actually want to drill down a little bit more in terms of what you're talking about with these updates, because, you know, when I'm working with clients, one of their biggest concerns is kind of the whole course, you know, how do I get to make sure more people complete it? So you mentioned that you've made some updates around that whole course completion area. Can you kind of delve into that a little bit more in terms of how LearnDash helps with that?
Sure. So for a long time, and this was across the industry, especially in WordPress, the online course space and when your experience of taking an online course was a lot like being on a web page. There were elements that were conducive to online learning, and that was great. But there were still distractions there, especially when it came to simple things like the navigation at the top of the page, for example, or so many sites use pop-ups or something that are going to want an opt-in address. And so, maybe you click to another lesson and the pop-up comes up. And there's all these other distractions that we wanted to remove, but not completely separate from the branding and the business side of the business owner of the website. So we created focus mode, which takes a learner from the online course, like when they're looking at the course page, they click into a lesson, and now you're taken to a new environment. And the environment gets rid of all the distractions, put your navigation in the left-hand side, your content in the right. The spacing has been very intentionally thought out. It's easy to, we didn't create this concept of having this full screen learning experience, but ours is definitely the best because we looked at what was out there and what they weren't doing right. And we also what they were doing right and enhanced upon it. And right now it's the most modern learning experience that you can have online. What I love about it is that you can easily pop in and out of focus mode. So what this does to a learner is they come to a course page and they click in a lesson, and when the environment changes, it changes their mindset. They're like, okay, I'm not cruising a website anymore. I'm learning content. And then when they need to get out, they just can easily use a breadcrumb or click on the course title, and then boom, they're right back on the website, which creates a very seamless experience, which is great for a business owner or whoever's offering the online course, because this portal is actually branded and can be branded. Colors can be chosen, logos can be chosen. So it's conducive to the entire business or course offering.
Well, I love that idea in terms of the whole focus mode, because really, like taking any type of anything online, the opportunity for distraction is huge. So it's cool that you give the learners that opportunity. Cool. Thank you. Jonathan.
So I think one of the things I've been really impressed with is the UX design. I think in some ways, in general, all the WordPress plugin providers in the learning management space, I think they're slightly falling behind some of the SaaS platforms. One, I think probably Kajabi comes to mind, but I think with your update, you've really pushed UX design to a different level. Was that one of the main things that you were focusing on and took a lot of time to work on?
Yeah, Jonathan, it was. That was something when we had phone calls with our customers before we ventured into the design or the redesign, I should say, to feel out some of their pain points and what those were. And they echo what you say. It was sometimes difficult to find where certain settings were. They were confused by certain settings. And this is also, this is the back end. And then on the front end too, from a learner perspective, the UX, UI design, which is kind of where focus mode was born out of. I also realized that we needed to get out of our own way. We know e-learning extremely well, but we're not experienced instructional designers, experienced designers in the term of software development. So that's why we brought in two firms to help with this. We brought in 10up, who's really well known in the WordPress space, and we brought in 3.7 Designs, and they implemented LearnDash at the University of Michigan. And with all three of our minds together, we created this experience both on the back end and the front end that we feel is cutting edge and a lot easier to use. And the response, like I said, has been positive. And it's not just what people say; it's in the number of support tickets that come in. We're seeing that we're fielding less about navigation. Less tickets are coming about asking where certain settings are. It's more about performing higher level tasks.
Over to you, Cindy.
So how do you really highlighted some key things that you did in your update this time around. So how did you go? What was your process to decide what you would include in your update and what you would either defer or just not bother doing?
It's funny, when it started, as the scope was actually smaller. It was only going to be the back end. We wanted to redo some of the builders. Our builders, even before the update, some of the most advanced, not just in WordPress, but in SaaS platforms as well. Meaning, like one example would be a lot of the builders that are out there, you can't reuse your content. So when you create a lesson in LearnDash, you can pop that lesson into any course without having to create a copy or clone the content or just do any rework. And it can be in different orders in the course. So it's really independent. And that goes for quizzes and quiz questions and topics and all that. So we were going to focus on the builders. That was kind of the main thing. We really wanted to create a great course building experience. But then as we started talking as a team, we thought, you know, there's also comments about the front end templates being dated. And that was certainly true. And we were able to maybe not address that initially because so many great theme providers and other plugin providers created solutions that really made it look beautiful. So you could use LearnDash in one of those and the experience was nice. But we decided at this point, we're like, you know, if 3.0 is going to be big, why don't we go real big? And that was kind of the goal initially. And we did have to tone back the scope a little bit. So there's one thing that didn't make it in that we're definitely going to be doing and addressing that we haven't gotten to. It would have pushed out the release another 8 months, I feel like, but it was a quiz builder. So we got a course builder, we got a quiz builder, a course builder. We don't have a certificate builder. And that's what I really want to address next. But we figured, you know, right now that's fine. We have a way to create a certificate. We can get to that. So so we did have to cut back scope a little bit, but it actually became bigger from the original idea.
Yeah, I can imagine. Once you start thinking about making changes, it can balloon for sure. Jonathan.
So, Justin, what was some of the biggest hurdles that come up during the project then?
The stressor for me was the timeline. We ran into just more things during testing, which is ultimately good because our release was really smooth. But we thought we were going to release in like best case scenario, end of January, worst case in February. We released in May. That was stressful for me because I'm big on communicating with our customers and kind of the people that are active in our groups and letting them know, okay, this is what we're doing. This is our timeline. This is kind of the time frame. I remember I told people, oh, Q1 will be out, like for sure. And I told them that late last year and we went past Q1 and everybody was like, where is it? Where is it? And yeah, it caused me a little personal anxiety because I don't like letting people down. Yeah. But the project in terms of, you know, we did have a lot of testing going on with the builders. We did some really big things because the builders are built using React. And we didn't have that before in our software. And as a result, just required a lot of testing about how that integrated with what we are currently doing. And yeah, we found a lot of things popping up. So testing was a bear for this. We did 2 beta rounds and then 2 release candidate rounds as well before we pressed go. So there wasn't any one like huge fire, crazy thing that was like we couldn't get over. It was because the changes were so extensive. It required so much testing, and it felt like for a while, every time we tested it, we were like, oh, shoot, there's something there, or that's conflicting with this other particular feature, or this template isn't working with this particular WordPress theme. So yeah, that was my general feeling overall, but I'm happy to be on the other side of the finish line now.
I bet you are. All right, we're going to go for our break, folks. When we come back, we're going to be delving more into LearnDash 3.0 and also going to be asking Justin how he sees the learning industry, some of the trends he thinks are coming up anyway in general. We'll be back in a few moments, folks. We're coming back. I've had a great discussion with Justin. He seems relieved.
Yeah. Can you tell?
I can actually, but if I was in your shoes,
I'm a lot more at ease now. You know, I'm leaning. I'm just having I'm having a good time. It's Friday.
Over to you, Cindy.
Again, I'm just going to drill down a bit in terms of some of the upgrades that you talked about. So you said you talked about the course builder and the quiz builder. Can you tell us a little bit more about what that looks like and what that what the user experience will be like for them? Yeah.
So one thing we wrestled with the builders was, do we create a builder experience that's kind of like focus mode, where when you go into it, it takes over your screen and then you're focused on building your course? And there's compelling arguments for that direction. We decided ultimately against it because it felt a little too anti-WordPress. I didn't like the idea of hijacking the whole admin. So what we ultimately settled on was creating it within Gutenberg. So it has a very Gutenberg feel, but it's really clean and easy on the right-hand side. So it's like, it looks like an app, but you still have like the admin menu items on your left. So you're not really like leaving anywhere. So you still feel comfortable where you are. We separated the builder aspect, which could be like adding, you add your lessons, you add, we call them topics, which are underneath lessons. All the stuff can be renamed in LearnDash to modules or whatever. But we have lessons. So you have your course, you create sections, you put lessons in your sections. You can divide your lessons up into topics. You can assign quizzes at any one of these levels, all drag and drop, just kind of click a button, give it a title, drag it into place. And so you have that screen. Then we kind of have like a tabbed approach where all the settings for the builder, for the course, so the course level settings, if you want, for example, we have like a forced linear progression, but if you want to open it up so people can go to any lesson in any order, you would do that on, the settings side of things. And I want to point out, like, all our settings, every single setting, we went through and gave it new help text, and new labels if it needed it. Like, we had a label, this is kind of a smaller example, but it's actually been really helpful in helping people wrap their mind around it. We had one called price type, which seems natural for a course, like what's the price type? But people are struggling, rightfully so, because there was buy now, free, open, closed. So we changed it to access mode. And that seems to resonate more with people. What's the access mode that you want? And then for each one of those, it just has a nice description right underneath. And that in itself, I mean, we used to get a lot of questions about the differences, and I don't see any anymore. So that's the course. And we did something similar with the quiz. Quiz Builder is a little bit more advanced because just quizzes in general. But within the Quiz Builder, you can not only just create your questions, but you can change your question type, put different answer selections, choose more popular settings from within the actual question. That's an option. Or you can go and create a bunch of questions independent of a quiz, come to create a quiz, and drag in your questions if you want to do it that way. So you have like a huge question bank, and you can just rifle those questions in to spin up an assessment. So those are really impressive, and they're really smooth. And actually, since the release, we haven't heard anything about something not working in terms of the functionality of the builders, which has been great.
Awesome. Sounds like it's a lot more user-friendly for your clients as well.
I think so. Yeah. And I know so. And when I compare it to our old builders, which a little bit more confined into like a WordPress post, with the Gutenberg feel and approach, it does look very app-like within WordPress. It's kind of cool. It's certainly nobody else is doing it. When 10up was responsible for a lot of that design. And when they came in, they really pushed the envelope on what we can imagine with the new editor in WordPress.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so I think that's been one of the areas that I wanted to discuss with you, because you kind of linked it with Gutenberg quite a bit, where with most of my clients, we're still utilizing, most of the clients we're using Animator, and we have some projects using Beaver Builder. Mm-hmm. So how does the update work with some of these leading page builders? Because unfortunately, we seem to be in, I won't say confusing times, but changing times, because I don't know what your opinion is. I think Gutenberg's moved on quite a lot, but I don't think it's still up to the standard of Animator, and the Animator's team are really pushing the envelope themselves quite drastically, aren't they?
Yeah.
So you've got a lot of choice out there, haven't you? How do you see LearnDash coping with Gutenberg plus the leading page builders? How do you see that playing out?
That's a great question. Before the update, so pre 3.0, people still used Elementor and Beaver Builder with LearnDash to structure their content. You can still do that with LearnDash. We're still built on custom post types. I mean, the builder itself, you create your structure and all that, but when you go to edit the lesson, sure, it's in Gutenberg, so you could choose that. But if you had like Beaver Builder installed, you could launch the lesson page in Beaver Builder and start adding your content and formatting it that way too. And that one thing that I wanted to be sure that was true is that you could use these page builders and it would apply to focus mode as well. Because I know people love them. That's rightfully so. They do great things and make it so easy to create a beautiful looking page, and in the same respect, a beautiful looking lesson and the structure of the content. So people can use that to create their lesson. And then when it's launched in focus mode, it's going to retain all that page builder aspect as well. Now, when I say Gutenberg, the Gutenberg feel, I mean more than just the blocks when creating content. On pages that are even our settings, it just has a very Gutenberg setting feel. The toggles, it's clean. The drop downs are consistent UI UX with Gutenberg. That said, it does work with Classic Editor, and I think it looks actually pretty good with Classic Editor too.
It does. I agree with you. Over to you, Cindy.
So you just launched your 3.0. When did you do it specifically?
May 28th.
May 28th. So surely, it's the internet. There's going to be something coming up next. So what do you anticipate will be kind of the next evolution of the online learning?
Online learning. In WordPress or just in general?
Well, kind of, I would say in WordPress in terms of functionality, but also just in general.
I think I'll speak to WordPress, but it's not necessarily like just online learning. I think it's kind of what we're seeing in WordPress, and that's quicker path from A to B. So when somebody's creating an online course site, using LearnDash, they have to think about, okay, I'm going to install LearnDash and I'm going to create my courses and all that, but I'm going to pick a theme and have my theme in there. I'm going to put WooCommerce on there as well and do things like that. You're kind of cobbling together some things, which is great. That's why we use WordPress. So we have that flexibility. However, that's not to say there isn't a method to help people, connect those dots a little quicker. And I'll give an example, and it's a little bit of a shameless plug, is just this week, we teamed up with AstroTheme, and they created a one-click import for an entire LearnDash site. So if you have LearnDash installed, and I think like our Course Grid add-on, which is free, and use the free AstroTheme, and you go to their site importer and you choose the LearnDash template, you get a full site with pre-populated courses already there. So you can either just recycle out the content if you want. That's an example of what I mean in the WordPress space and of helping people get the A to B. They can still toggle out and switch off settings and put in new plugins, but they're not having to do it like one step at a time. We're completing the first 10 steps for them. So that would be in the WordPress side. And I think that's probably true for more than just the e-learning plugins. But from what I've seen, LMS plugins are they're always used in very complex situations. Everybody defines a learning program differently, so they need different features. They want to have a different user experience. Some of them may seem counterintuitive, but that's just the nature of the beast. In the e-learning space, I think we're going to start seeing, and I hope that we're helping, or we're kind of in this vein, we're going to start seeing SaaS providers, plugins or whatever, be more bold in what they feel like the best learning experience would be. Be less generic. That was what we're trying to do with focus mode. We said, look, this is what we feel a learner should go through. If you look at like Teachable, they have their own kind of course delivery, and they're kind of being bold, saying this is what we feel a course a learner should experience. But they're not the only ones with that. Thinkific has one too, and there's a spattering of others. And so now it's about who has that methodology, who's got that right methodology and the best presentation and most flexibility for the admin, the person setting up the course, and then for the student. And so it's becoming more of a higher level conversation, really. It's not just, hey, I can create a course. It's like, oh, I can create a course, and actually this is the best way to deliver the course. That's the way I see this industry going.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think the e-learning industry is really in its infancy of how this type of medium should be delivering information or content like that. So it'll be interesting to see if different people are kind of taking different routes, where they'll end up. So, Jonathan.
Yeah, I think it would be cool. It's nice when people like kind of put a flag in the ground and say like, this is what we believe. And I think it'll be interesting to see what comes of that.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Jonathan.
Yeah, I just wanted to see if you, I've got this feeling and I just want to see if you think I might be on the right track here. Obviously, marketing automation has become a bit of a buzzword, um, with giving an individual kind of marketing message to different groups. I see the possibility in the coming period of a customizable learning experience based on choices that people do inside a course, that the actual experience is kind of semi-customized for every individual student. Do you think you see that as a possibility? Would you agree that that might be coming up?
I agree. I think that's a very astute assessment of what's going on in the space. We see it a little bit, and like even today, we can create some degree of a specialized learning path in LearnDash, but not maybe to the level of the marketing, the way the marketers and the marketing industry has really kind of perfected that. Right now, to do that, to get a very custom learning experience in WordPress and like with LearnDash, it's some high level stuff that you might need. Like you use like an Infusionsoft and then connect it with, if there's so many plugins out there to connect these CRMs with LearnDash and WordPress, and you can trigger off different emails and learning paths and things like that based on behaviors within the courses. But you're absolutely right. I think that needs to be made easier. I think it will be made easier. And then I don't think it's expected right now, but what we're going to see is people starting to expect that ability when creating a course, to make it a little bit more custom, maybe less universal. We see that just in education in general. So I could see the technology trying to follow on to that trend.
Oh, that's great. I think we're going to wrap up the podcast part of the show. Hopefully Justin can stay on for another 10 minutes and you'll be able to see the bonus content and the whole interview on our YouTube channel. That's the quickest way to see the interview in general, all the great people we interview, and then you'll be able to listen to the podcast on iTunes. We'll be back next week with another great guest like Justin. Cindy, would you like to tell people how they can find out more about you and what you're up to?
Sure. So if you're looking for a little extra help to get your online course created and out there, you can visit me at thecoursewhisperer.com.
That's great. And Justin, how do they find out more about you and your company?
Yeah, I'm going to encourage people to go to learndash.com/3, just the number 3, learndash.com/3. You'll be able to read about and watch the video all about LearnDash 3.0.
That's great. And I know a friend of mine, Adam from WP Craft, has done some great educational videos on the update. And I suggest if you're interested, go and have a look at those as well. He does a great job. And I think he did a great walkthrough on some of the key functionality. We will be back next week with another great guest, folks. We'll see you soon. Bye. So, so I'm kind of a bit fascinated by this automation possibility. But as you said, even on the marketing side, I think it's still kind of semi in the infancy. The only thing is, the amount of work, can you see actual doing something might be a great idea, but when you do it in practicality, it doesn't work out so great. But could you actually see some real benefits in offering a kind of customized solution for different groups? Do you think the learning outcome would be any different, really?
Yeah, I think I'll give you an example of how we see it used today with LearnDash. This is a very simple example, but somebody goes into a course and they first start with a quiz and they go through the quiz, and then based on how they score in that quiz, they're automatically enrolled into whatever courses they should get based on their score. That is fairly simple to do now with LearnDash, but that's just really scratching the surface, I think, in my mind. The way the technology is now, even when I think with the course builders, I think branching scenarios would be really nice, where you could branch out to different lesson paths based on how you do in a quiz in a certain lesson. This is pretty advanced stuff that from a tech standpoint would require a lot of rework, maybe LearnDash 4.0. But you know, that definitely has its benefits, for sure. But I think we need to be cognizant of a lot of course builders that just want to create like a traditional 3 to 5 lesson course. You know, they don't even need quizzes. They just want to structure their content and deliver something basic. So it's fun because, you know, as tech heads, we are always thinking like, how can we push the envelope? How can we get something really, really cool out there that does fancy things with learning and would be conducive to online learning and education in general. At the same time, we're thinking that way. There's some people that just don't want that. And we can't miss out on those either, that we need to make it easy just to create a very simple, not all the bells and whistles. They don't need badges or points or gamification elements or anything. They just want to create a course and sell it. And so how can you make that simple too? So kind of finding that balance between the simplicity, being cutting edge without leaving people behind.
That's right. Cindy?
Yeah, well, it's interesting that you make that comment, because a lot of people decide to go with one of the SaaS platforms because of its simplicity. So I'm going to have, I always get the question, you know, which should I use? Should I go with SaaS or WordPress or what have you? So I'm going to give you this opportunity to make your case, Justin, in terms of why does it make sense for somebody to go with, you know, the WordPress option versus going with a SaaS provider?
Yeah. I'll try not to say all the similar stuff that most people in WordPress do say when it comes to it. Maybe I'll surprise you a little bit, and I'll give the argument for using a SaaS because we get pre-sales and people are kind of wondering the same thing. If you're just trying to put a simple course together, it's kind of a side thing, and you're not very into tech so much, I would say just use one of the SaaSes. You can get a course up really quickly, and it's colored by numbers. You know, there's less to figure out. The learning curve is less steep. I will say that a lot of people start off that way, and then they start experiencing some success, and then they're like, I want to be able to do, you know, this. I want to have forums. Okay, now I want to have this extra piece of functionality that doesn't exist. I want a different quiz question type. Oh, they only have true or false and multiple choice. You know, you tend to outgrow things. So I would say if you anticipate or you feel like you're the kind of person that would eventually want to do more with a learning program, you're going to want more control. And that's where LearnDash WordPress come in. Learning programs are never static. And so it's something to consider. I think obviously we see a ton of people that are successful on these hosted platforms. They do great, and they don't need anything else, and they're fine with that. But there's also people that are really invested into what they're teaching because maybe it's them teaching it. They're very passionate about it. It's an extension of themselves. So they want that course experience to be like almost like them teaching, have their personality on it. You're not going to get the personality with a SaaS. It's going to be pretty generic.
Right. No, that's a good point. And it's funny how a lot of my clients, they may start out thinking that they're going to be doing something pretty small, but the more you get into it, they realize how big or how broad they can go with it. So
yeah, it gets exciting. You know, it's like, oh, I can do what? I can do this and that. And then as you start experiencing some success and your learners ask for something, that's the worst, right? If your learners are saying, hey, we want X, and you can't do it because the platform isn't yours, then you have to tell them no. You might be missing out on an opportunity. Yeah,
no, it's a good point. Jonathan?
Something about you, Justin. I just wanted to check out, is this right? It's not too bad. Don't worry, Justin. Somebody told me that you started the term learning management system. You actually coined.
Oh, I saw that. That was in Adam's. I saw that in Adam's. I wish I started the word LMS, learning management system. I introduced it to the WordPress space. Actually LearnDash before it was called LearnDash was called WP-LMS.org. And I was a consultant implementing learning management systems and e-learning programs at large Fortune 500s. So it was like, this was my language. This was my lingo all the time. So I started this idea, WordPress LMS, and that's what I always called it. So I talked about, at the time, I remember looking up the search term and there was only like 30 searches a month for WordPress LMS. And I was like, well, that'll be cool. I'll be able to rank number one for that. And it's funny. I think the LearnDash came in and a bunch of, several other players around the same time. And what I was able to give, or what it just resonated. It gave it a name. It gave our space a name. I think, you know, because before then I didn't see it used at all. Maybe I'm wrong, but I looked for it a lot. I even went to the repo and looked for WordPress LMS. I Googled WordPress LMS because I was kind of just curious to begin with. And when there was nothing, I was like, all right, I'm going to start WP LMS. And then, you know, we switched it over to LearnDash, which is probably a really good decision. But that's probably, yeah. I didn't start the word or the term learning management system. That's been around for a little bit.
Oh, well, you burst the bubble, but I thought I would ask because I thought that was cool.
Yeah. You're giving me a lot more credit than I deserve in that one.
Cindy.
No, you just created the internet, right? Invented the internet, right?
Yeah. Yeah, right.
So I imagine doing the work that you do, you know, sometimes it feels like you take 2 steps forward, 1 step back, or maybe 3 steps back and 2 steps forward again. How do you persevere through all of that? Like, do you have any advice? Because, you know, it really is likened to being an entrepreneur, that kind of process. So how do you, what advice do you give to people that kind of face those kind of challenges day in, day out, which is what you kind of do with the work that you do?
Oh boy. I'm still trying to learn how to deal with it, if I'm honest. There are times where things get super frustrating, and for me personally, I'll go for a run. I'll go lift some weights, because when you're doing those things, or at least for me, when I'm doing those things, it's like very, very focused on one thing. Like, can I just push this heavy thing up? You know, so it gets clears the mind. And then a little physical activity is never a bad thing. But also beyond that, I think having people to talk to in your network, to when something's frustrating, to get a different perspective. And if you're a solopreneur or you have a partner, great, you can bounce ideas off, and your team, you can do the same. But if you have a network of trusted individuals, I know I've been very fortunate to have some people like that in my life that I can just say that are in the space too, so they understand what I'm talking about. But present to them the problem and or what I'm dealing with, and try to not put my spin on it, where I have a feeling one way, like, hey, what's your thought on this? That can be helpful. Just not trying to get out of your own head and try to let other people, give you ideas and try to, be receptive to it. But I work with it every day. I mean, it's really hard. There's some days that you read somebody's upset, or they're mad, or they think, your product's crap or whatever. And you're just like, I've invested my whole life into this. It's like my baby. And now you're, and I feel so bad. And then I feel bad about that. I'm angry, but I feel bad that you're upset. And so it is, it's a struggle.
Oh, I can imagine. And yeah, thank goodness there's people like you that will persevere and just make sure that it gets done. So that's great. Yeah. Jonathan.
I think we'll wrap up the interview. Obviously, Justin's got to get back to building LearnDash 4.0.
Oh, yeah. I shouldn't have said that. Now people are going to be asking when that's coming out.
Well, it is, isn't it? It's like an event.
Inevitable.
You plan the event, you have the event, and then the next day you're planning for next year's event.
Yeah, everybody wants to know it's not what you did, it's what you've done lately, and then what you're going to do. So people are always, that's good. That's the users push us. So.
And I've actually got one quick question, and then we'll wrap it up. So how do you see the world of WordPress against its main competition, in the learning management area, it is the SaaS. Do you think that WordPress, with what you've done and some of the Gutenberg and some of the other innovators in the WordPress community, do you think it's in a good position, or how do you see things in general?
That's a funny / timely question. One of the business goals with 3.0 was to be a more attractive option when looking at the SaaS space. So looking at, Teachable, Thinkific, or whatever, and then also a LearnDash. I didn't think pre 3.0 that we were quite there. I thought the learning curve was a little too steep. But one of the things we wanted to make easier was the onboarding and getting started, and then using LearnDash and have it resemble some of those things that people like about these SaaS platforms, some of the simplicity and the more intuitiveness. There's only so much we can do because we're built on WordPress without, like I said, I want to be in that ecosystem and true to that ecosystem. we're going to be going after some of the SaaS space more aggressively than we have in the past. We've always had people come over, but we've never been, front foot forward in that way. We're going to do that now because I think we can.
Yeah, I think also, obviously with Gutenberg, a lot of attention was spent on that and focus, but I think hopefully in the coming year, more attention will be focused on the actual admin interface, because I think what you've shown with the upgrade to LearnDash is the UX design. You've got customizer settings, widgets, you've got a lot of different areas where you got bits, and it's fine for somebody like me that's been using WordPress for over 12 years, but somebody new, it's rather confusing. I think a lot could be done to simplify the admin interface along the lines of what the great UX design you've achieved in LearnDash. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think there's always opportunities for enhancing the admin experience in WordPress. I think we see that all the time, even with just, figuring out a way to manage these admin notices. I mean, you log in and every plugin's got a notice there, right? And so there's opportunity for sure in that space. And that will go a long way, I think, in adoption of WordPress. And I think that falls in line with the WordPress goal of competing like with a Wix or something. So I think we'll probably get there.
Yeah, I think it's been a pleasure talking to you again, Justin. Hopefully you come on the show again. Leave it not so late, but you've been busy. I've been trying to organise the interview with Justin for a few months, and he's had to postpone, but for obvious reasons.
Yeah, we had to get the 3.0 out, so I had something to talk about.
Yeah, exactly. I followed the logic, and it's been a great pleasure talking to you again. We'll be back next week with a leader in the WordPress or educational field to help you make a much better course. We'll see you soon, folks. Bye.